So James Norman is the farmer here. He's the tenant farmer that holds the licence. He's a director of Hempen as well. So we work with him on the crop rotations and which field and planting and so on. He's very much involved in the agricultural side of the business. And we had a moment on the field just before he sort of carried on cutting down the plants, just to allow everyone to share how they were feeling and you know, just to air some views and make sure that everyone was doing okay. And James said to us then that he'd never in his whole farming history, and you know that's 20-30 years plus, had to destroy a crop that was so, you know, abundant and viable. It just seemed really unnatural to him. And he could see from the fields how well the plants were doing, that it would have been a really great yield that year. So it was really, really difficult for him as well. It's just something that a farmer never dreams they'll have to do. They are here to plant and grow rather than, you know, plant and then destroy. So
my name's Patrick Gillett, and we're here at Hempen on the beautiful Hardwick estate in the South Oxfordshire, on the banks of the Thames, Wind in the Willows territory.
So my name's Ali Silk. I look after the marketing at Hempen Cooperative. So Hempen is a worker cooperative, and here on our farm in Oxfordshire we have until recently been growing organic hemp, and we use that currently to make a variety of products, seed oil for culinary purposes, moisturising oil and other cosmetic products from the hemp seed oil, and CBD, organic CBD products.
We came to be here as an organisation because James Norman is a very progressive ecological farmer here on this organic land and on this organic farm, and he decided to take a chance on on a hemp dream, just as we had that hemp dream. So there was a bit of serendipity where he'd just been advised that hemp would be a great arable crop for him to take on, as our sort of founding visionary, my friend Joe McGowan, had this idea for building community and an ecological and socially cooperative community. As a worker cooperative, we're really a different model. What we aim to do is challenge existing structures and find alternative and better ways of doing things. So to be a worker cooperative means that there's no hierarchy. So each member of the cooperative looks after a different part of the business. 9:30 we all come together for what we call a morning circle. It's basically a stand-up meeting where we're kind of tuning in with each other. So we have a little physical stretch, a little check-in, how's everyone doing today, and then we go through the jobs for the day. We make decisions democratically all together, and we all help steer the shape of the business. We're a not-for-profit. We exist really to use hemp, to cultivate hemp, as I said, to sort of challenge existing systems, but to build sustainable livelihoods for people, ecologically sound, sustainable, environmentally friendly, and you know, good for people, planet and community really. So what we do here is develop and produce products that we sell to people, and that's all on our journey towards you know, really using the whole of the hemp plant to create a better future for everyone really. And then before long there were more people very quickly with the same dream coming into the mix and getting stuck in. And then when I met Hempen, it's completely different, and I suppose that's what I'd been searching for some time, and I'd quit my job and I'd given up my flat in London and just kind of opened myself up to what the possibilities would be, and I met Hempen and came down here and visited, and it was so different. You know, living in a community, living and working together, very different ways of being, very different ways of operating a business. Yeah, so we've all got our own sort of subjective views on our collective mission. Our collective mission is to use hemp to promote the health of people, community and the planet. It's certainly, you know, working as a cooperative, it brings its own challenges. You know, we're a small business, which means that, you know, we don't have the financial backing to easily employ someone if we need someone, or just to, you know, do loads of advertising or whatever it is. And it also builds community. We almost, as a workplace, become a community because we live and work together and we really look after each other. But we have the support of each other and we have the drive, and that's what really makes it worthwhile. But also on an economic level, we're a cooperative, we're a not-for-profit. None of us are believing in getting rich out of this and going and retiring to the Caribbean. Our intention is to create a decent livelihood, to do that in a way that is responsible and in alignment with our values, So we've been growing for 3 or 4 seasons now, since actually 2015. During that time, CBD came to prominence. When we started, we didn't even know what CBD was. So we decided sometime probably in 2016 that we'd like to get into that growing marketplace, as we were already growing for oil. Every hemp license holder in this country has to submit an annual grower statement every year to say what you've been growing and what you intend to grow for the next year, because they're 3-year licenses. Every year from 2016 we said we've been extracting for essential oils and CBD. We told them. We weren't aware there was any problem with that, and they never said anything. So when our licence was coming to end, just before it came to an end in 2018...
The Home Office released a statement published on their website around hemp licensing and which part of the plant could be used. And it was at that point that it became more clear to people. It hadn't been communicated previously which parts of the plant were allowed to be used and not. And at that point it became clear that we weren't allowed to harvest for the flowers of the hemp plant. It was only seed and fibre that was allowed. So communication with the Home Office had been sporadic, but their advice to us was to continue as usual on the assumption that we would receive a licence for seed and fibre.
And then this began a very long chain of very little information coming from them, us having to chase information, because obviously we need to plan what to sow, when to order seeds from the breeders. All of these things need to be organised as a farmer.
So we were very much under the standing that we've been honest and open with the Home Office. This is what we're doing, and at no point have we had any communication from them that we shouldn't have been doing it or it was illegal or so on, until we read the statement that was released in November 2018. As soon as we read that statement, we've changed the business. We won't apply for a licence that includes the use of flowers. We won't grow for flowers. As I say, we want to build a sustainable business and protect our community here. In February, we received an acknowledgement from the Home Office that they'd received our application. And as that advice was to continue as usual. In early June, we planted the seeds of our crop for this year.
It's a nightmare to get a licence. You start growing it and you're told you can't harvest the most lucrative and healthy part of the plant. When you build a business on it and they revoke, they don't renew that licence and undermine that business and all the livelihoods you built on it, despite taking the tax on it continuously for the last 3 years, considerable amounts of tax.
So if we're struggling to secure our licence or are having problems, then undoubtedly other people are as well.
Of course, how are we gonna become a nation of great hemp farmers under these conditions? No, we actually need support. We need a legislative and regulatory framework that supports hemp farmers. We should be able to access funds to buy collective equipment between different farms. We should be the leaders in research. We should have our own breeds that are land races developed from hemp grown specifically for the UK.
It's very difficult for us to know how many people have been getting licences and what the reaction from the Home Office has been to people. Perhaps other people are applying for licences and have never been involved in the use of the flowers and they might find it easier. It's really hard to know how the application process has been going for people. I mean, the UK is not covered in hemp farms and certainly other people are struggling. In 2018, I know that there were 18 hemp farms in the UK. There would have been a raft of applications that year. I don't know how many applications there were, and I don't know how many applications were granted, licences were granted. In 2019, again, we don't know how many people have been applying. We do know that people have been struggling and people haven't, had the responses that they'd hoped for. And then we had a period of great silence from the Home Office, without any feedback, no real understanding of what was happening with our licence application, whether or not we would be granted it. But generally, I think the feeling was that we were under the assumption that we would be granted the licence for seed and fibre, on the understanding that we would not do anything that was now illegal.
Midway through the growing season, actually, so ridiculously late in July, we heard that they weren't going to give us any licence at all. So of course we knew we weren't going to be able to harvest this year for the flowers, but we didn't know that we weren't going to be able to harvest anything at all. That came as a great shock, a great shock to us, because this is our home farm, this is where we're based, and although we work with other growers, you know, this is the heart of Hempen, really.
So the period of time has, you know, been about 7 months through a process that the Home Office states should take 2 to 4 weeks.
So their main justification is that on our grower statement, as I've said before, we declared that we were extracting from the flowers and leaves this essential oil, which CBD is a part of. We were open about that all the way through. You know, it wasn't our intention to in any way hide that, and that's on our official statements. They've then said because we've done that, that means that they're not going to give us a license in the future, because they therefore suspect that we will potentially do it in the future because we've done it in the past. I mean, we've been open and honest about it in the past. They've known about it for 3 years, and yet they've waited till 6 months after our license renewal to tell us that they wouldn't be renewing it based on that history that we've been open and honest about. This doesn't feel like a supportive government body. This feels like an obstructive government body. We've done everything openly, honestly, with a good heart. We're not for profit. We're not trying to get rich here. You know, we're just trying to live well and do something useful. Upon legal advice, without a license, it seemed that we were left with no other choice but to destroy the crop or risk facing a criminal prosecution for the cultivation of cannabis.
To hear from the team and to sort of find out yesterday the decision that was made to destroy the plants was really, really gut-wrenching, really sad. Obviously there's so much beauty and nutrition and power in these plants. They could be used for a multitude of things that, you know, it feels so wasteful that we're not able to use them, and, you know, and unjust, really. You know, that in this day and age that we're told that we can't grow a plant that's legal.
So unfortunately today, James, who is the official licence holder and director, is also a director in our business, and us have come to the decision and action the destruction of this year's crop, which is very sad. It's a very sad and counterintuitive thing to do, and as we walked through the field, the plants growing up above, up to our heads and above, full of the green life from mid-season, and you know, we know from here, from experience, that it only gets more flavoursome and full of life going into harvest. It felt very sad to destroy that life when we know what it can offer out to all our customers and the world in general, as well as us here at Hempen.
I mean, personally, I was incredibly disappointed and sad. For me, it hit really emotionally. I remember the day that we planted the seed, and I was on the field with Theo and the farmers, prepping everything, and there when the tractor was drilling the seed into the ground. And I remember thinking, it was Friday night, and I remember thinking, this is the best Friday night I've had in I don't know how long. It's just so different from everywhere I've come from. And for me, it was the start of my journey in hemp. And so the seeds going in the ground really represented something really important. It was the start of my journey. It was the start of the plants, and these plants that were going to sustain our business for the year coming. So it's really the most important time of the year, really.
Yeah, I think people here are feeling sad, angry, frustrated, all of those things, as is human. But one of the great things about the crew here is that they're very resilient, and with a lot of us having campaigning backgrounds, sometimes we know that when you're doing something right and good and true and it gets stamped upon, actually that can backfire and make what you're doing even bigger.
It's been very difficult, but one thing that sort of helps us keep going is that we really believe that we're doing the right thing, and it's important to, you know, accept the situation that you're in and find the best way to work around it. You know, getting angry, wanting to fight back, these kind of things are not necessarily the most constructive ways of moving forwards. And when everyone is feeling emotional and it's difficult for everyone, you know, everyone's been incredibly understanding and just accepting that this is a difficult decision that we've had to make, but it's the right decision for us to move forwards and to ensure that we'll be here for years to come. So everyone's been incredibly supportive, and yeah, it's actually been quite beautiful.
And in this case, we want to be part of a campaign to save UK CBD. Currently, the Home Office's policy and British legislation is suggesting that CBD cannot be made in this country, cannot be grown here, and that's basically chopping the head off the UK hemp industry, chopping the most lucrative, easy to access part of the plant for farmers, which then subsidises the other parts of the plant for eco-construction, for fabric, for fibres, shiv, whatever you want to do. All of that becomes cheaper if we can harvest the head, the flower of the plant to make the wonderful CBD oil.
We didn't move into the CBD market to make money, we moved into the CBD market as well because it helped us sustain and develop other products and grow and move forwards. For us in the short term, what we're working on is going through the appeals process with the Home Office to enable us to have our licence reinstated so that we can continue to grow and continue to work with more farmers, and at the same time then keep working on the legislative issue around the use of the whole plant.
So our 35 to 40 acres that we've had to destroy, with seaweed and fibre alone, that would have resulted in a revenue of around £200,000 for us as a business. That's just from the seed and stalk alone, from the onward sales. That's based on us having built up a business and having the possibility of selling those products and developing those products already. Now, we also have built up a business selling CBD, so we now know that we can sell a lot of CBD. However, we've not been allowed to harvest it. The value to us, if we could have harvested all of those fields we've had to destroy today, was about 2.4 million. This is a small farm here. You know, once you get a farm that's growing hemp in the hundreds of acres, as there already are, up in Yorkshire, all over, I mean, those figures go up exponentially. So that would have resulted in at least around £480,000 taxes that will go to the government, and that would have resulted in a lot of employment and growth in our not-for-profit social enterprise. And that's really where we were as a business. We were sort of, you know, we've done the hard work of the startup, we're ready to take off, and that's when unfortunately this has come.
The financial impact is a very difficult one, partly because we're a not-for-profit. There aren't outside revenue streams that are easy to tap into. You know, there are grants that we can apply for, but often they're based on having a growing licence. You know, we can't really take on outside investment, so being able to sustain ourselves financially is very important. We have, you know, 12 people living here at the moment, and we want to protect their livelihoods, so we do need to kind of adjust the business to make sure that we've still got that revenue coming in to protect our future.
I don't think it's actually malicious. There may be some sinister agenda behind it, but I'm assuming there's not. I'm assuming it's just a bit of blind bureaucracy, not set up right and not really fit for purpose.
It may well be fair to say that the hemp industry is not as strong in the UK. I mean, absolutely everyone is being hampered. You know, farming knowledge is passed from generation to generation to generation, and this is a nascent industry, and you know, we just haven't had that time to pass the knowledge down.
You know, the first thing we can do is allow farmers to utilise the whole plant, including the flower, to make CBD. We can also move the regulation of hemp farming away from the Home Office, whose responsibility is drugs, guns and crime, and to DEFRA, whose responsibility is farming and agriculture, and so understand the needs of farmers. When we start to create that legislative framework, that's just getting the law out of the way. That's before we begin to even provide funding and research support. But if we can even do the first bit, we can become a nation of great hemp farmers. If we do the second bit, we can lead the world. What's
important for the hemp industry at the moment is that there's a financially viable way to sustain itself, and I suppose luckily for us, for hemp farmers in the UK, CBD has massively grown in popularity for the various benefits that research is beginning to show it can deliver to people. So hopefully, you know, a combination of importing and diversifying our products, and at the same time working with the Home Office and sort of working through our appeal will help us move forwards.
For me, it's really an economic point as well as an environmental point, which the environmental point is primary, but the economics, you know, farmers in the UK are really struggling, you know. It's a really hard industry to actually financially survive. It's very rewarding in terms of quality of life, but at the same time, the stress that's being created by the financial problems around it is ruining that quality of life for most farmers. So here's a plant that in a post-Brexit landscape can pay for itself without subsidy. It can facilitate the growth of other healthy environmental industries that can't be offshored, things like eco-construction for housing that you can't offshore. You know, you have to build that here for homes that we already know we desperately need. Whilst doing that, it sequesters carbon out of the atmosphere and locks it up in those homes, creating the most toxic-free home you can actually build at the moment, a hempcrete house. It does all this, and yet we say no, you can't harvest the most valuable part of it. And by doing that, we put the kibosh on the whole industry. We put the kibosh on the whole industry, and all those other enterprises, from eco-construction to textiles to hemp eco-capacitors to food to cosmetics, all of the other things are completely undermined by the challenge with growing it here, and also not being able to harvest the flower for CBD. We should really be looking at a country like Switzerland, who have set very sensible framework, and they're absolutely becoming one of the world leaders in hemp and CBD production. It's a shame because the UK appears to be one of the biggest spenders of buyers of CBD products in Europe. That's a trend that's only set to continue to grow rapidly, and we've created a business and a number of livelihoods out of nothing from that, and many more businesses could come out of that. So we'll be joining in with other hemp farmers and other hemp and CBD producers to start a campaign to save UK CBD. So it's provisionally called, the campaign is provisionally called Save UK CBD. In order to do that, we're going to need a few things to change. The first thing is for farmers to be able to grow, harvest the flowers on the hemp plants, and those to be used to process CBD. So we can have UK grown CBD. For us, that's got to be organic, because it's about health. We're all about organic. You don't want to be adding any chemicals to that. Also, there's future possibilities. The EU Novel Foods Directive may cause trouble for CBD sellers across the EU, and currently the UK is part of the EU. With Brexit, we've got an opportunity to set a new framework, and after Brexit we want to say, look, let's set the framework in a similar way to Switzerland have, where you've got good supportive regulation that maintains high quality and is easy to access for ordinary growers, farmers, ordinary producers and ordinary consumers. One of the things they've done in Switzerland is allow up to 1% of THC in the plant, and what that means is they can grow many more varieties. At least around, comparatively, it would be around 67 varieties compared to what we've got now at 0.2%. We can grow 16 varieties. Those varieties have to cover the breadth of Europe and all the different climate conditions, all the different soil conditions. We'd like to develop varieties that are specifically good for all parts of the UK.
I mean, there's numerous products. What we're focusing on here at the moment is kind of human health and nutrition. So the seed oil is incredibly rich in omega-3 and 6, and in fact the perfect ratio for the human body. So even better than fish oil in that sense. The seed is also full of protein. So as a vegan, for me it's really exciting because there's a plant that provides high protein value. So on the market now you can find hemp protein powder or hemp flour. And that's, you know, can be up to sort of 60% or more protein. So that's really exciting in a world where, you know, animal agriculture is, you know, doing damage, and we need to find ways to help people to sustain themselves a bit more naturally. So that's really exciting as well. And hemp seed oil also is just unbelievably great for the skin and full of antioxidants, and so as a cosmetic product it's wonderful too. So at the moment the flowers are the most valuable part of the crop.
Yeah, like I say, to be able to harvest the hemp flowers, to be able to utilise them at a level of at least 0.3 like the rest of Europe and perhaps 1%.
So our campaign is around, firstly it's about bringing awareness for that. So it's interesting to meet people in the CBD industry, for example, who haven't seemed to spend a lot of time thinking about where their CBD has come from. Even customers, I think, don't know that they could be looking for UK grown, or now they can't, but origin has never been an issue. So part of that is to bring awareness of what's happening in the hemp industry in the UK and the difficulties that people face. Ultimately, what we're working towards is a change in legislation to allow the whole plant to be used. Understandably, that high THC cannabis is a controlled substance, but aside from that, industrial hemp is legal, its components are legal. So what we really want to do is get to a place where the government understands the potential, financial benefit it could have to the UK and to farmers, the potential health benefits it has, nutritional benefits, all of those, and change the legislation so that people are able to use the whole of the plant.
I know a farmer who up in Yorkshire who literally had to turn away £5 million, but he didn't have to do anything for it. He just had to allow a CBD producer to take away the flowers off of his fields. He already had a business in hempcrete and eco-construction. He had to turn down £5 million, and this is a struggling farmer who's grafted every day of his life, and his family have to build his hemp business and to build his hemp farm. Where's that money gone? It's gone to a farmer in another country.
Do you feel like your hands are tied?
It could feel like our hands are tied, but I'm a campaigner. Where there's adversity, I always see an opportunity, and I really believe in that David and Goliath thing. With a bit of campaigning, with a bit of communicating the economic, ecological, and employment opportunities that hemp and CBD have for the UK, I think we can change the landscape, and we can get a great regulatory and legislative framework like Switzerland or one of the other countries leading the way on hemp and CBD production. And we're going to keep growing with our other growers. We're going to keep developing the other product lines, and for our CBD products we're going to be importing from Europe for now, whilst we campaign to save UK CBD with other hemp farmers.
We've been working with James here on our crop rotation to ensure that each year his fields are kind of renewed and regenerated, and the regrowth has been amazing. I mean, the reason that we're here at all is that the test crop that was grown a few years ago just to see how well it would do had such an amazing effect for him on the soil. I think he was really struggling with the land for a few years, and since growing hemp it's kind of brought everything back to life, so it's quite special.
Do you feel satisfied?
Really, yeah. I mean, how could I not be? I mean, you've seen the farm, it's absolutely glorious. You maybe witnessed earlier a little taste of how we operate together. Heart and soul is poured into everything we do. The people that I work with really believe deeply and care deeply about hemp as a sustainable crop and all the amazing uses of it. And all of that love and care is poured into everything we do every day. So there's really nothing not to be satisfied about.
Yeah, we're very disappointed, and I'm sure that will form part of our legal campaign going forwards, our appeal, or if it's a new application, whatever it might be. But we need to get back to hemp growing.
So, we're hemp evangelists. We believe in the power of the whole plant. So though at the moment we only use parts of the plant for the products that we produce, we spend a lot of time researching and figuring out how we can harness the whole plant.
So we'll go through those legal channels. We'll campaign politically for all hemp growers in the UK, and all future hemp growers in the UK, and ultimately all those customers, those CBD users who want to buy UK CBD, and organic CBD at that. That's our way. I mean, the support we've had is absolutely mind-blowing. It's incredible. I feel actually quite emotional talking about it. Everything that's happened at Hempen has been with incredible love and support. I used to have this cheesy line that I said to people when they came to harvest, that a lot of businesses have a lot of startup capital. We didn't have much startup capital, but we had a lot of startup love. And not only did we have a startup love, but we had a lot of love investment all the way through, because continually volunteers and supporters have helped us to build a business that is based on values, based not on profit, but actually the values of health for people, community and planet.
Yeah, again on the website there's details about how to contact us in terms of consultancy and other support, and get in contact on social media, follow us, have a chat. We'll be as responsive as we can, and we're really grateful for the interest. It's really, sometimes we can feel like we exist in a bubble. We're really, slightly outside of the mainstream on this farm down in, darkest South Oxfordshire. And so it's so beautiful when people contact us and, they've met us at markets or events and they're so enthused and excited about what we do. So yeah, just get in contact, and thanks for the support.